if you're not familiar with Jeremy Strong, he put out an official statement when he got nominated. I've devoted my life to the attempt to do genuine work that would be worthy of this honor. Kieran Culkin, the only thing that's shared is his wife sharing an Instagram story of him popping a bottle of champagne in France and the words, "Let's fucking go."
Right. They talk about that on Smartlist. They mentioned that, like, sexy indifference, or even in dating, if someone likes the other person too much, they back off, that kind of.
And that's why everyone's single.
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast, where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm your host, Ikon Song. This is my co-host,
Rían Kelly. How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
Oh, just enjoying my life.
Oh yeah, hanging in there.
I jumped in the sea today.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I jumped in the freezing cold water today. Every week.
So you guys have a weekly tradition?
Shout out to the lads who go every week. Me, Carl, Paddy, Cahill. Every week we get in the sea.
Yeah, that's no joke, but I love a cold plunge. That's great. So if you guys aren't following yet, please follow us wherever you find your podcast at Actors Guide Podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Substack. If you get a chance to write us a review, we would love and appreciate that. It helps people find the podcast.
And a shout out to the people who have written us reviews. Thank you very much. You know who you are, I think. I assume you know who you are.
So, on the show for today, there's a $1 billion studio that's in the works in LA. We're all hoping for more production. There's a catch. There's a powerful person in LA who's opposing it. So we're going to talk about that.
It sounds very Batman-esque. Yeah. Sounds very mysterious.
And also we're going to talk about a viral story that's been going around on Substack and on social media. This discussion about the differences between how Jeremy Strong and Kieran Culkin have been perceived during award season. One cares deeply about the craft. The other one is a little more casual and laid back. And it brings up the question, is caring too much cringey?
I love this topic. I love this topic. Stop caring, everybody. Just stop caring.
And then we're also going to introduce a new bit. It's called This Week in Reddit. We are going to take the best and worst bits of the acting thread of Reddit. We're going to go through the acting Reddit thread, and for the best, sometimes worst, comments, questions, advice, we're going to debate it. We're going to discuss. So sit back, relax.
Now a word from our sponsor for today's episode. Does your pet get the yips in auditions? Does your little friend literally shit the bed at callbacks?
Welcome to the Royal Academy for Dramatic Barks, where your puppies will be trained by acting legends Ellen Barkin,
Mark Ruffalo,
and Sir Patrick Stewart. Sign up today. All right, so for word around town, we have a $1 billion studio renovation, Television City, right in the heart of LA. And it just so happens that Rick Caruso himself, the wannabe mayor, is filing a lawsuit and is opposing the renovation. A lot of different factors here, but let's just talk about Rick Caruso. We've talked about him during the fires. He also owns the Grove, which is why he could want this expansion not to happen, because it's competition. Because if they have retail, if they have shopping, he's not going to want the competition. You got money when you own the Grove. I think it's impressive when someone lives near the Grove. But just imagine you own the Grove, or at least his corporation. He's alleging it's a violation of the California Environmental Quality Act. And in the past, a lot of people use this act to block these type of transactions. Hackman VP called the lawsuit an unfortunate but predictable abuse of CEQA to stop the television studio plan.
Who will own this? Or who will be like, is it like, who's in charge of all of this?
Hackman Capital Partners. They own Culver Studios, they own Kaufman Astoria Studios, and they own Raleigh Studios. So they're expanding their portfolio. The Entertainment Union Coalition, who's running Keep California Rolling, is in favor of this project, obviously.
No, it does seem largely driven by self-interest there. I mean, like, if you're the owner of a large mall next door to it and you're like, this is going to ruin the environmental quality of this place because of the traffic, yet you run like one of the biggest malls in the city and most popular spots in the city. I mean, it does kind of seem like the environmental quality is not your primary concern.
Exactly. According to his lawsuit, it was unclear whether Hackman Capital Partners were going to use that entire renovation for studios, for production.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, it could have been offices, it could have been retail space. So it wasn't really clear what it was for. And so they're kind of forcing it to be clearer. So maybe it's a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, we want more productions in LA, and this is going to be a big part of it. And we'll see how that lawsuit goes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this Substack article. For those that don't know Substack, it's a new hot blogging, writing platform. Podcasts are on it. We're on it. So this writer, great film writer. I don't know how long she's been doing it, but it's a great film writer. Her thread got a lot of traction online and so on during this Oscar season. She does a lot of film commentary, and it's just posing the question, as the award season went on and culminated with Jeremy Strong watching Kieran Culkin accept another award over him. I don't know if you saw this. There were memes about Jeremy Strong's reaction.
I didn't see it. Was he gutted? Because Kieran Culkin did shout him out and go.
I feel like he was so overcome with emotion, both positive and everything else. To paint this picture, if you're not familiar with Jeremy Strong, obviously we have heard about his process. We talked about this a little bit last week. He put out a quote. He put out an official statement when he got nominated. I've devoted my life to the attempt to do genuine work that would be worthy of this honor. Today's nomination is, without overstatement, a realization of a lifelong dream. I remember spending the night on cold metal bleachers outside the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in 1993 with my father to watch the actors and actresses arrive for the Oscar ceremony. So he cares deeply about this craft and this process as an actor. And I think it's just an interesting comparison with Kieran Culkin. The only thing that's shared is his wife sharing an Instagram story of him popping a bottle of champagne in France and the words, "Let's fucking go."
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like, what does this say about society, and is this fair? Is caring too much not cool or cringy? I know. Every time I say that.
Yeah. It's such a weird question.
There's other elements. Obviously, Kieran Culkin grew up on movie sets. And I do want to say this. I don't know if you knew this. Jeremy Strong grew up in a very working class upbringing.
Okay.
I believe he shares a story of, for vacations, because they didn't have money to go on vacations, he was literally like in a toboggan on bricks rowing, pretending he was like...
Roll it back there. He was in a toboggan on bricks rowing to pretend he was
on vacation.
Aw.
I know, exactly. Exactly.
One, that's heartbreaking. Two, that's weird.
But at what point did really caring about the craft and really working your butt off at it, at what point was that considered uncool? Now, I know that's a weird generalization that maybe Gen Z kids are talking about, but here we are. Because I feel like in society that actually... I feel like in society that actually is kind of true. I don't know if the people who care and work the hardest are actually the ones being celebrated and rewarded. I feel like people want to be with the party guy who's organizing the happy hour.
Yeah.
And that guy actually might get promoted at your office.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, one thing is, when we talk about status in scenes and ease, status is ease, and really caring about something doesn't sort of engender ease. You know what I mean? Like I
think that's spot on.
Caring about something too much or gripping it too tightly is the opposite of ease, I think.
This is a shameless plug. We talked about Jeremy Strong and his process. We actually talked about it last week. I went to a Q&A that he was doing for The Apprentice during this award season. I put it up on my YouTube at Ekansong, Ekansong. I thought it was great. I thought it was incredibly informative. So I'm going to put that link in the description. I did not think it was cringy. I thought it was actually very captivating. So
there's nothing wrong with really caring about something. Like I think one, I don't know, it's a complicated, it's a complicated question because one, I think it's brilliant that, you know, he cares that much in some ways. Two, in my own experience of caring too much about something, the tighter I grip it, the further away it gets in some ways. Great to have all that ambition, but just to not be attached to the outcome of it.
It's like trying to catch the wind.
Yes.
First off, you're spot on because I think historically we always idolize these cool characters who had ease. I mean, we're talking about James Dean. We're talking about Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11. We're talking about Cool Hand Luke. You know, we've always appreciated those guys or characters that had more ease and effortlessness. You know, it's just interesting how in society where it transcends, hey, this isn't a character. This is actually, you know, in society, we actually want to be around people who might be a little more off the cuff and so on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
go ahead.
Funnily enough, because I don't think it means that any of these people care any less, but like somebody like Jack Nicholson, who sort of, you know, embodies ease in a lot of ways, in the way that he works and the way he comes across on screen. I'm sure he strikes me as someone who cares a great deal, and obviously throughout his career would have cared a great deal. But how it comes across is different. Jeremy Strong sort of has a reputation for being very intense and being, you know, very committed to the craft and very quite serious about the work. So maybe it's just the public perception of how much you care as opposed to how much you actually care. I don't know, you know.
I want to be clear because a lot of people were conflating these two on threads. Every so often I would throw in my opinion here and there. We're not talking about performance here. Both of those performances are incredibly, the goal as an actor, and you know, it's something that we talk about in LK, we want to be brilliant, but we also want to make it look effortless. That's kind of part of the magic trick, right? We want to be great actors, and we want to make it look effortless. We're not saying that Jeremy Strong's performance ever looks not effortless.
Yeah.
He still looks like a great actor, and it's still kind of effortless. You know what I mean?
Don't get caught acting, as they say.
Exactly. So we're not criticizing performances. We're just talking about how their story of their lives and their career is affecting our perception of them. Do you know what I mean? I think we can get to this point of kind of debunking this a teeny bit. There's a lot of people who we celebrated for having a deep craft and process. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
I mean, how do people not use him as a perfect example of being committed to the craft? I mean, no one's making fun of Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, sure, they might think he's a little odd or a little, you know. I don't think people are cringing at Daniel Day-Lewis.
No,
and
but you know,
I definitely don't. Yeah, go ahead.
You know what I think the difference with Daniel Day-Lewis is? Nobody knows Daniel Day-Lewis. You know what I mean? He doesn't do very many interviews. He doesn't talk about it. Like, that's the difference, I think, is that he's not out there talking about his process. And I think Jeremy Strong is a bit more accessible in that respect. I think he has probably said a little bit more lately, you know what I mean? And I'm not faulting for that at all. Like, he's obviously being interviewed and he's doing press and these things are coming up. But I don't have a sense of Daniel Day-Lewis as a person. I mostly know his work, you know. Jeremy Strong, I think there is a bit of a public persona or public perception of who he is as a person, because he's also been on a very successful TV show, and that's like in Succession, and that's slightly different to doing a lot of really intense Oscar-nominated movies up to that point. You know what I mean?
So let me throw one other thing. So on this idea of ambition, because in this article, they also mentioned Timothy Chalamet's SAG award speech.
Yes.
About how he wanted to achieve greatness, how he openly said it. A lot of people were appreciated the honesty, and a lot of people also did cringe.
Right.
He said that this is more fuel for me to keep going and keep doing. I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
But this is more fuel for me to keep doing things, and I want to be great. I want to be one of the greats. And also throw in a lot of actors in the past who were actively, for lack of a better word, chasing Oscars. We could talk about Bradley Cooper. We could talk about Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway got a lot of backlash for her Oscar campaigns in the past. And a lot of that, might be because she's also a woman as well. But we're talking about this overly ambitious pursuit of something. Go ahead.
I don't. The term overly ambitious is tricky for me because I don't. It's not really for me to judge what somebody's ambition is. You know what I mean? Whether it's the right amount or not ambitious enough or too ambitious. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. So let me throw out the overly. Let's just say ambitious. Where do you fall on that? Because I feel like you and I are both kind of in between on this spectrum here.
I think it's fine. I think it's absolutely fine to have those ambitions, and I think it's probably a lot of actors do. I think where it can backfire on people is when they say them publicly, because you become sort of defined by that, or you become judged by that standard. Then if you say, I want to be one of the greats, I want to be this, you're kind of setting yourself up against that standard, and then you'll always be judged. Are you one of the greats, or are you not one of the greats? Or like, how do you know? It's such a subjective term that I think to say it publicly, that might be the thing that trips people up.
Should we just not say it out loud? When Timothy Chalamet says it out loud at his SAG Award speech, people are like, they don't know how to place it. They don't know how to take it. Does it make people uncomfortable that he says, I'm openly aspiring to be great? Is that a bad thing? The fact that society cringes at it.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, you're right. It's an interesting point. Why does saying it out become, could create problems for you? But it's that thing of when you publicly state a goal, you become judged by whether or not you hit that goal. When people know you care, they sort of judge you by that.
They see what you care about, and they have power over you.
Yes, yeah. That's they have power over. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But they talk about that on Smartlist. They mentioned that, like, sexy indifference. That's attractive to people. It's the same in relationships. There's a kind of a balance of, like, or even in dating. If someone likes the other person too much, they back off. That kind of the stereotype of, like, the push and pull.
And that's why everyone's single.
Yes.
Another example to throw into this mix is Denzel Washington. He won his first Oscar for Training Day. Or this was his second Oscar, his first Oscar for Best Actor. And he said when he was in college, everyone asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be the best actor in the world. Just straight up.
I think it's as basic or as sort of simple as likability. Is that what the difference is, or is it the way somebody, or the way somebody carries themselves? You see it in politics a lot. Likability plays a much bigger role in politics than it should, in terms of policy and everything else, and who would necessarily do the best job. It becomes a sort of a popularity thing. So, and Denzel is a very charismatic guy. Jeremy Strong, not as much, you know what I mean? He doesn't have that, outgoing personality.
And it's funny because you brought up politics. I wasn't going to bring up politics, but it does say something about even how our last election went. Trump maybe goes off the cuff. And then on the other side, you have Kamala. You have people like AOC and care very deeply, very articulate, very passionate. And maybe that came into play. Trump has no problem doing interviews on a golf course with a bunch of random strangers, random dudes doing a podcast. The actor aspect, we call it, what is your room? When you go into an audition, what is your room like? What is the vibe or essence in the room? What does it look like an actor who someone wants to be with on set for 16 hours?
I don't think either of them are going to suffer too much from these things. It's just interesting to talk about how it's perceived.
Anyway, I'm glad we talked about that. Let's jump into this Reddit bit. It's called This Week in Reddit. We are going to take the best and worst bits of the acting thread of Reddit. Some are going to be a little more involved. Some are going to be quick bits. So where do you want to start? Okay, I see one here. Audition a month. Is it bad for everyone else or just me? And this was 23 days ago, so fairly relevant. So chances are it's probably not you. It's probably not your reps. The industry is just dead. This is, not nitpicking on Reddit, but we don't know what city they're in. So are they non-union? Are these non-union auditions? Are they commercials? Are they TV, film? Are they for theater?
That's true. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they'll preface it with, LA actor, whatever, or Atlanta here, or New Mexico. It's funny because you do see threads like this a lot in the acting subreddit, I find, where people just want reassurance that, like, is this normal? Am I wasting my time? Am I, are people, because I think it's that thing about comparison. Like, how do I stack up against the people around me? Every actor I know at some point, I think, has talked about either not enough auditions or not happy with their reps, or, you know what I mean?
At what point as an actor are you like, I'm always getting the quality auditions?
Yeah.
So a couple comments. Haha, if you're getting an audition a month, you're up there with one other person I know, which means you're getting out a lot. You got a good rep. Another person goes, what even are auditions? It's been 80 years. Another person goes, no, it's just you. The rest of us have at least 25 to 30 auditions per week. I mean, don't you see the constant posts on this subreddit about how thriving the industry is right now?
All right. So the bottom line is nobody's getting a ton of auditions. And,
you might want to get used to that a teeny bit. But this is the landscape of film and TV right now.
Yeah. But it's nice to see that people are like all in the same boat. Nice. I don't know. Like, it's not great for the industry, but it's reassuring to know that. This was one from a few weeks back that I had saved. It said, do you guys find it more beneficial to do a self audition tape or go in person and audition? And it's basically asking, I'm just curious about what everyone's preferences are. I did a self tape not that long ago. I'm just wondering what the pros and cons of both are. Which sounds like it might be a less experienced actor asking this question. But it's really split with this, I find, because I was actually talking about this with some actors yesterday, the day before. It seems to be really split down the middle. The first comment is, I prefer going in person because it gives me the opportunity to show casting that I can work well under direction. Oh, I was talking about it on this job. And I was talking to some of the actors, the job that I'm doing at the moment, I was talking to some of the other actors as to what they prefer. And some of them feel like being in the room gives them a much greater advantage because they're meeting people and they're talking to the casting director, they're showing they can take direction, and they feel like self-tapes are just firing things into a void. Personally, I sort of fall between the two. I really enjoy self-tapes. I actually really love doing them. I love being able to have the time to do them. And then I think as far as callbacks go, I'd love to have a callback in person, or even Zoom is interesting, but at least you've presented, like, here's my take on this. But a lot of people, third comment, self-tape. I don't have to commute 45 minutes in traffic for every audition. Allows me to have a full-time job to pay the bills. Totally valid. It certainly made things a lot more convenient. It isn't as stressful to do a self-tape, but they get to know you better in the audition room. It's very divisive, this issue, I find. It's really...
I know that for me, if it's a commercial, I want to be in person. I absolutely want to be in person. They are happening in person in LA. A lot of these opportunities, it's immediate. You get direction. For that 20 seconds, you need to know exactly what they want, and they're going to explain it to you, versus just setting up your self-tape and biting into a cheeseburger 5 different ways. As far as film and TV, I think having self-tapes as a possibility is incredible. I've been in 3 different cities in the past 2 weeks, and I was never booked out. And I always had that opportunity. Audition for this. I never took a day off, even though I was all around.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's a very good point. Yeah, commercial versus TV film, yeah.
As far as being in person with 45 other actors in a lobby, I absolutely do not miss that. I don't understand how anyone misses that. I love actors. I have a lot of actor friends. I just don't want to be in that energy. I don't choose to be in that energy. I can say hi to a friend and you can catch up and all that stuff, but I think a lot of people are still tied to that romantic idea of being an actor. In LA, you're in a lobby with 45 other people that look exactly like you. I don't, in theory, sure, it might be fun for 5 seconds, but I don't miss that. Because both of us are technical savvy enough to be able to operate lighting, camera, and possibly Zoom. If you've been doing this for 50 years and you don't want to adapt to Zoom, I get it.
Agreed. I think we're very similar on that. I feel the same way about commercial auditions, definitely, because like a lot of commercial auditions are, there's some improv in there. There's usually a joke or there's a laugh in there. You can hear the laugh in the room, and that's a very reassuring kind of a thing, or a very kind of feels like a win if you get a laugh in the room. I don't miss that waiting room environment. My relationship to that changed over time. When I was starting out, particularly when I just moved to America, or when I just moved to Chicago, actually. I lived in LA for a year, and then I was in Chicago for quite a few years. But initially in Chicago, I felt very intimidated by that environment. But over time, over the years, I got much more used to it, and I also got to know the casting directors a lot better, and I'd booked work through some of them, so I felt more at home in it. And my relationship to it changed, but I don't miss it, because invariably, in LA especially, when you go into a room like that, you're typically going into a room you don't know very well. You know what I mean? You may not know the casting director. I don't miss that at all, because there's a real, you're judging everybody and they're judging you, and it's distracting from what you're there to do, and you're kind of sizing people up, and it's just weirdly competitive, but not. And said that, for TV and film, I love self-tapes.
I have to throw this out there. There's one time that I remember when you said dealing with other actors' BS, whether it's good or bad or just the distractions. There was a show called In Living Color. They tried to reboot it. It's a famous sketch show. It's a la SNL, but a little edgier. They tried to reboot it. I'm so not a guy who does impressions, stand-up, etc. But there was a requirement saying you have to do 2 characters and 2 monologues, etc., etc. So there's a number that you had to prepare. One of the other actors, Asian guy, obviously, possibly competition, says to me, implying that there was 3 or more characters or impressions that we had to prepare. I was expecting 2. They're like, oh yeah, they asked me to do 3. Oh, I don't even know why. I think trying to psych me out.
What a dickhead.
This is the BS that you have to deal with other actors in a room. Anyway, I just laughed my ass off. It's not like I was going to get that job anyway. So yeah, I don't miss that at all.
It's like walking out of the room as you walk past the waiting room, go, man, that third scene was long. And then just leave.
Oh, yeah. Like there's only 2 scenes that you had to prepare, but they did a third because they're special. All right, guys, I think that's a good place to end it. Send us Reddit threads, things that you want us to discuss. Send us any questions that might be keeping you awake at night.
Let's narrow that a little bit. Not anything that might be keeping you awake at night. Yeah. Yeah, let's keep it on topic, maybe.
All right, so let's do hidden gems.
Yeah, let's do it. So my hidden gem for this week, which I actually have an image of if you're on YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, is a drink which has just been launched and is going to be further launched, called Elton, invented by my pal Laura O'Connor. I'm going to read some of the blurb from the back. It's ultra hydrating, anti-inflammatory, stomach settling, liver supporting, skin boosting, de-bloating. No preservatives, no sweeteners, no colorings, no chemicals, no additives. It's a very subtle, kind of a herbaceous flavor. It's got some green tea in it, so there's a bit of energy in there. But I'm going to just give you some of the ingredients, because it's like the taste is very difficult to describe, but it's very subtle. It's a carbonated drink, but it has raspberry leaf, green tea, milk thistle, burdock root. Don't know what that is. Turmeric, ginger, but it tastes good.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That sounds good. It's always nice to find a drink that has healthy ingredients.
Yeah. So she put a lot of research into this. There's no calories. It's carbonated. My mother loves it. She said I would drink that on a night out, because there's no sugar. It's not sweet. It's not bitter. There's nothing artificial in it, and it's actually very good for you. So Elton is the name of this drink. I think you can buy it. You can certainly buy it online at the moment, but it's gonna be coming. It's gonna be more widespread in the coming months, I think. Yeah, and I'm also hoping that maybe Laura will hear this and throw me some Elton. You know?
That's amazing. That's definitely. We're both choosing something that has to deal with health and protecting yourself. There's a list. It's called plasticlist.org. Okay. There were researchers who decided to investigate and see how much plastics and chemicals are in everyday foods. So they thought it was going to be a quick, interesting experiment. It ended up taking half a year, and they put half $500,000 into it. So this ended up being a very extensive list. I don't want to freak people out. We're conscious about plastics, about chemicals. You might want to check it out. We have everyday things like Spam, canned meat. They're based in San Francisco, so they chose a lot of San Francisco things. They got Shake Shack cheeseburger. They have Starbucks here. Don't go too crazy. There's a lot of different chemicals you could test for, but they chose and they prioritized, I believe, 18 main ones that are known to affect our health. If you're not aware, people are trying to reduce plastics, like in their Tupperware. I use glass Tupperware as opposed to plastic. So there's ongoing research about that. But yeah, check out this list. Don't go crazy. They said, be careful. These are just things to keep in mind, but you don't want to make too large assumptions from this. But they did the research.
Wow. Okay, good. That's gonna be weighing on my mind for a while.
That's it, guys. This is a fun episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you get a chance, give us a like, write us a review, and we'll see you next week.
Beautiful.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, maybe give a like, maybe subscribe. It helps people find the podcast. Also, if you didn't catch last week's episode, it's right over here. Don't worry, we'll wait.